Hello, everybody. This is Mr. John Paoletti wishing you a happy day whenever day you see this or watch this. And the best joke you will hear all day is this: I wouldn't buy anything with Velcro. It's a total ripoff. Hi, and welcome to the last chapter you will ever have with Mr. Pao. Chapter 5, Cinco, as they say in northern Spain. We're going to simply count it down for our last 12 or 13 lessons. The Ten Commandments. So I think we'll double up on Commandments 5 and 6. And I think we're going to have a quiz or two in there, of course. But this is it. This is the end of morality. We've talked about the principles, how to guide you. We've talked about seeking God, following God. But now we're going to get into more of the nitty gritty. We're going to get more into specific scenarios, instances, as detailed as we should get in high school. We're going to go through the Ten Commandments. Today we're going to knock out commandment number uno, as they say in Mexico. The first commandment is, I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. You shall have no other gods before me. You shall not make for yourself any graven image or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. You shall not bow down to them or serve them. Only God. God is the one and only. The principle behind this is that there's nothing more important than God, and that God comes first in your life. Hence, the strong language of this commandment and the fact that it is commandment number one. It is the most important commandment. This comes in line, everything else comes in line. The principle of which is, of course, put God at the center of your life. Now, the principle of this commandment is reflected in your Ed puzzle for this lesson by Father Michael Schmitz, who gives you 3 clues to examine, to evaluate if God is in the center of your life. Is God there? And you get to answer those questions today. So watch that Ed puzzle either before or after this lesson. Doesn't really matter. Just have it done by Thursday. And let's get going with ways to obey, follow, and live this first commandment. We're mostly, for all these commandments, we're going to spend most of the time talking about ways in which we fail, common offenses against the first commandment. All right, get your notebook out. Here we go. Number 1, we break the first commandment with superstition. Okay, calm down, slow down. I'm going to break it down. Superstition is defined as the deviation of religious feeling and of the practices this feeling imposes. It can even affect the worship we offer the true God. Well, one attributes an importance in some way magical to certain practices, otherwise lawful or necessary. To attribute the efficacy of prayers or of sacramental signs to their mere external performance apart from the inner dispositions they demand is to fall to superstition. Let me break down that catechism language for you. Superstition is when you believe that just by doing an outward action, you're going to get an invisible power just by doing the action. It's a superstition action. So you see pictured here is the horseshoe. This is an old school superstition. A lot of old school women carry a horseshoe in their purse for good luck. A 4-leaf clover, good luck, superstition. You have it, you have good luck. A rabbit's foot, the list goes on and on and on. That's all good superstition, right? You're supposed to get this good luck from having these outward things, and just by having it, you get something. There's no disposition, there's no worship of God, there's no recognition of God, there's no seeking God. Okay? The bad superstitions, like opening an umbrella indoors, walking under a ladder, all these things, those are considered bad superstitions. Knocking on wood is a superstition to keep evil away. Oh, but Mr. Pale, I've heard these and I believe these, and this is what I was told growing up. Okay, calm down. Do you actually believe that walking under a ladder is going to bring about some bad event in your life? No, but I don't do it. Well, don't worry about it then. Superstition involves actually believing in just the action, and people do superstition with Catholic things. Oh, I'm gonna just put this scapular on my neck. That way, I go to heaven. An outward action with no faith, with no love for God, is superstition. You can do superstition with Catholic things. All right, so that is an offense of God. God expects us to respond to Him. God expects us to seek Him in our hearts and not just do outward things. That's superstition. So, Mr. Pale, if I wear the same pair of socks to every game because I believe they give me good luck, am I superstitious? Well, maybe if you actually believe that. But I don't think most of you actually believe it. I think you do it because it's fun. All right? There's a lot more to say on superstition, but we got to keep it moving. You can email me / put in the next soccer of any questions you have about superstition. Idolatry. What's your idol? Number 2, this is the most obvious offense against the first commandment. If we put other things before Him. Now, in this little picture in the top right, you see in the background the golden calf that the Israelites made. That was a god of Egypt. And when they were bored in the desert and Moses was away getting the 10 Commandments, they made this golden calf. Okay. We all know it's idolatry. You're worshiping something created. You're worshiping an image, of a god. Okay. That doesn't happen too much anymore. But the Catechism says, and I read the bold, man commits idolatry whenever he honors and reveres a creature in place of God, whether this be gods or demons, Satanism, power, pleasure, race, ancestors, the state. The state means like the government, the country you live in, and that's the idealism of a lot of communistic societies. That there's nothing greater in this world than a state, a government working together. There's nothing above that. So just serve the common good. And that's to put the government, the state above God. That's idolatry. Of course, we've talked about this in chapter 1, how we put power, pleasure, race. Um, we put our happiness in other things. Money, of course, is a very common idol in America and the world, of course. All right, so that's idolatry. That's an obvious offense against the first commandment. Number 3, 4, 5, and 6. This is where it gets a little spooky, which I had a magic trick to show you, but it's very difficult over the computer. You wouldn't believe it anyways. Anyways, there's some problems when we put our faith in things that are not of Jesus Christ. We put our trust in other practices. We go to fortune tellers. We say, oh, maybe they'll hook me out. They'll tell me stuff that God won't tell me. You receiving a spiritual power from a source that is not of God offends God, shows your lack of faith in Him as an offense against the first commandment. God can reveal the future to His prophets or to other saints. Still, a sound Christian attitude consists in putting oneself confidently into the hands of providence for whatever concerns the future, giving up all unhealthy curiosity about it. We're expected to say, God, you're God. You're the God of my past, the God of my present, the God of my future. And I surrender all to you. We have to say that every day. A lot of people, especially down here in Louisiana, they turn to tarot card readers, they turn to witchcraft, divination, and magic for answers, turning to spiritual sources that are not directly related to God. That's a problem. All forms of divination are to be rejected. What's divination, Mr. Pale? Right here. Recourse to Satan. Okay? Don't have recourse to Satan. Breaking the first commandment. No talking to demons. No conjuring up the dead. Also referred to as necromancy. Or any other false practices that are supposed to unveil the future. No horoscopes. Yeah, if you're reading them just for fun, whatever. But don't put your faith in the aligning of the stars. Astrology, palm reading, interpretation of omens and lots, they contradict the honor, respect, and loving fear that we owe to God alone. So, yes, when you go to New Orleans, oh, we're in New Orleans, oh, we're in the French Quarter, let me go get my palm read because this is what you do. No, because that stuff can be real, and you don't mess with fire. And those, if they are in touch with spiritual sources, what if they're in touch with spiritual sources that are not in line with your God, Jesus Christ. You don't want to mess around with that. You don't want to play around with that. You don't want to make light of that because, yes, it is real. This is the number one thing I teach on this slide. Mr. Pale, I thought that stuff was just fake. No, it's real. Voodoo can convey a real power. Fortune tellers and the like, magic, sorcery, etc., conveying a real power, by which one attempts to tame occult powers so as to place them at one's service and have a supernatural power over others. Even if this were for the sake of restoring health, these are contrary to the virtue of religion. Magic and sorcery are real, and they are, whenever we're putting our faith in other powers other than God, that is a serious offense, and this needs to be known and preached in Louisiana if you were ever unclear about it, because it's most common here, and perhaps a little bit more in the southern part of Texas. Number 4, irreligion. So this is the last category that we're going to cover. In the Catechism, when it goes to all these offenses against the first commandment, it says that there is just general things that go against the religious spirit of the human person, one of which is sacrilege. Okay. Sacrilege consists in profaning or treating unworthily the sacraments and other liturgical actions, as well as persons, things, or places consecrated to God. Okay. Sacrilege is taking something that is believed to be holy, given to God, and you're using it for your own purposes in a very vain way. So when Madonna, now you're too young to know this, but before you were born, Madonna was like dancing on a cross very scandalously, sacrilegious. When people wear a rosary, just as jewelry, that could be sacrilege. It's a profane use of a holy object, you know. Sacrilege, how other ways we commit sacrilege. I don't know. Putting your foot up on a thick Bible on a table, it's a little sacrilegious. It's a holy book. You don't use it to prop up your feet. You get the idea, right? Sacrilege is an offense against God because it takes things that are given to God and uses them for an unholy purpose. Okay, and so that's a more common, perhaps, sin against the first commandment. The other two, you've heard it before. Atheism. There is a God, and we can all know that God exists. That's written into the human heart and the human mind. And so when we say God does not exist, we're breaking the first commandment. You can know better. You can't stay. You can at least be open to God. You can at least say, I haven't found God yet, and I'm searching for God. But to completely reject God, a person would be guilty of breaking the first commandment. Many of our contemporaries either do not at all perceive or explicitly reject this intimate and vital bond of man to God. Atheism must therefore be regarded as one of the most serious problems of our time. The Catechism says one of the most serious problems of our time is atheism. It's grown from 1 or 2% to about maybe 10% of the world now identifies as atheistic. Yeah. You know what that is? That is an offense against the first commandment. And on a lesser level, but on still a real level, agnosticism. What is that, Mr. Pale? Agnosticism assumes a number of forms. In certain cases, the agnostic refrains from denying God. Instead, he postulates an existence of a transcendent being which is incapable of revealing itself and about which nothing can be said. In other cases, the agnostic makes no judgment about God's existence, declaring it impossible to prove, affirm, or deny. So there's a lot of ways that agnosticism shows its face, but largely when you're saying, oh, you can't really know if God exists, or yeah, God exists, but you can't know anything about him, or it maintains that there's no knowledge to be had of God, no real concrete knowledge you can have of God. A means no. Gnosticism is the Greek word for knowledge. There's no knowledge of God to be had. And that's false. According to the Catechism and the Catholic Church, we can know God. God has revealed himself to us, and it is our sole purpose in life to go to get to know him. And so agnosticism, for that reason, will be a major offense. Atheism, none. Theism, God, there is no God. These are all common offenses against the first commandment. Be wary of them, address them, examine your conscience, and live a great life. That is the first commandment in a nutshell. Don't forget to do the Ed puzzle by Father Mike Schmitz today. Have a great day. Carpe diem. Do something new today. Pray harder than you ever have before today. And God bless. This is Mr. John Paley.